Okay.
Okay, guys, before I start, I just want to quickly share the slide here. Yeah. So let us first introduce ourselves. We are conducting this webinar under the umbrella of Sean Shah Excellence and Leadership Academy, and I am the founder of this academy. What we do and what are our services that we provide people all over the world. These include, helping the nurses with the NCLEX exam, which is one of the main exams that is required to work in United States and Canada. If you are interested in working as a registered nurse in United States and Canada, you need to pass that exam. Other than that, there is a whole process in that exam, and one of the component is English language exam. You can give English language exam, as IELTS. IELTS is one of the exam, and there are several other exams that can be given as part of that process. And various states requires different kinds of exams. So one of the domain that Sean Shah Excellence and Leadership Academy covers is helping people with preparing and uh, doing and giving those exams. The other service that we provide is helping people with the scholarly writing. And Sebastian is an expert person in that. Already worked with Sebastian for a long time, and we know him very well. And I'm really inspired by his expertise. So these were some of the features or the services that Shansha Excellence and Leadership Academy provides. If you have any kind of questions or any concerns, you can keep your questions with you. Once we are done with our discussions and our briefings, you can ask your questions later on. Meanwhile, you can, put your questions in the in the chat box. So before I hand over this to Sebastian, I would like to introduce myself. My name is Shahzad Anayat, and as I said, I am the founder of Shansha Excellence and Leadership Academy. Along with that, I am a PhD candidate in the Faculty of Nursing, University of Calgary, and I'm hoping to be a graduate soon. My defense is gradual, and I hope in a month or two I'm going to be a doctor. Um, I have worked in critical care, including ICU and CCU, for a long period of time, and also have a vast experience in teaching and research. I have, guided and helped thousands of nurses around the world in preparing their NCLEX and other exams that are required to work in abroad. When I say abroad, this means like countries other than Pakistan. So now I would request Sebastian to give his introduction and go from there.
Hello, everyone. So my name is Sebastian Saw, and I have a master's degree in political theory, philosophy, and language. I have actually worked for governments in Canada, both at provincial and the federal level, and doing reports and analysis on the challenges and barriers that uh, immigrants and foreign workers face with English coming to when they come to Canada. On top of that, I currently work for the University of Calgary and working with students who are, you know, uh, both domestic and foreign students who face writing challenges, reading comprehension challenges, and basically trying to understand how to use English at a high academic level. In addition, I have actually lectured at the university level as a professor, and I specialize in understanding how we use language in terms of our developing meaning and developing our grammar. So, in terms of what I do, I actually provide uh, uh, the knowledge and skills to help students write better papers, to help students understand how to use English, both in a general level and at a scholarly level. So my role when this process keeps going in terms of what services we offer will be to actually teach you how to use English and how to use English both in the four level components, which is in terms of listening, reading comprehension, writing, and speaking. So those are the elements that I can help you with, and I can help you at a very detailed level because my focus is to help students achieve both an academic and general level of understanding how to use English, and particularly when you come to Canada or the United States or any English-speaking country. So to begin with, I guess before I focus on some of the challenges students face, I will turn it over to Shazad here to see if there's anything further he would like to add.
No, I don't have too many things to add right now. But as I mentioned, I would again like to emphasize on our services. Like if you people are thinking to give any exam, especially English language exam, you can consider Shansha Academy because we know what are the challenges that non English speaking individuals face because I have gone through this process. We know what are the best material that is required to pass those exams, and also if anyone is struggling with publishing, anyone is struggling with their master's or PhD thesis, Sebastian is one of the best resource that can help them. So this is what I was thinking to add. Nothing other than that, Sebastian.
Okay, so turning to some of the challenges that students or individuals seeking to learn English face often, we can begin with the idea of English tenses. So many students, many people learning English struggle with the use of tenses, past, present, and future. Now, in English, just to give you an example, although we have words like is, was, and will be, which indicate past, present, and future, often in English, it's not enough to know that. You have to actually know the context of the sentence, which can often involve when something is happening, or where something is happening, or what is happening. So, for example, I'm going to give you a simple comparative sentence. Take the sentence, Robert had carried a big stick when walking home. Now, that sentence suggests a past tense, and it is a past tense way of saying that phrase. At the same time, though, that same phrase also can be used to indicate something happening in the present because he could be carrying the big stick while he's walking home, and that sentence indicates present tense as well. So for students who are new to English, that can be challenging to determine, well, which one is it then? Is it past or is it present? The, the key here is the context. Who and when are you referring to? When are you referring to in terms of, is this a present tense reference or is it a past tense in terms of something that happened before? Another example would be when we say Robert was carrying a big stick when walking home. Now, in English, we call that the past continuous. This is an event that started in the past, so it has a past tense reference, but because he's continuing to walk, it carries into the present. So in English, the past and the present sometimes can blur together. Other challenges that students face, for example, are the use of articles like the, and so on. It's a very common problem. It's actually one of the biggest problems students face, challenges that students face, because um, in English we have rules about when to use the articles, but there are many exceptions, and more often than not, it often depends on how you are phrasing it, and it often also depends on how the sentence flows. And in English, the sound of a sentence does play into when you use an article or when not to use an article. But I will give you some real examples here that can help. Let's take if I refer to a university. If I'm just referring to any university, I would, but no specific university, in other words, I would just say a university. But if I was referring to a specific university, like the University of Calgary or Oxford University, I would say the university. On the other hand, if I was talking about several universities, I would refer to simply universities. I would just say the word universities. There would be no article in front of it, no no the. On the other hand, if I refer to the name of the university specifically, like Oxford, like University of Calgary, like um, um, sorry, University of Toronto, all of those universities, because they are specific names, also do not require an article in front of them. So how we determine the use of articles will really depend on what we are referring to and how the sentence itself flows. Another factor, another challenge in English is the use of idioms. These are unusual phrases, and I'll give you an example right now what an idiom is. In English, an idiom could be like, it's raining cats and dogs. This is an unusual phrase. What does that mean in English? Well, it means it's really raining heavily or there's a storm out. So we will use phrases quite often like that in English. And for newcomers to the English language, they'll just kind of look at that and realize that that doesn't make any sense because you can't really rain cats and dogs, but it's a metaphor. It's just a metaphor that's become common in the English language. So it has become an idiom. Another example would be, he missed the boat. Now, he could take that literally, and he maybe did miss the boat in terms of a boat he was trying to get to go to an island, for example. On the other hand, missing the boat can also be a metaphor for missing an opportunity. So understanding phrases like that is something we will focus on in terms of teaching the English language to those to students who are wanting to learn the language, learn the general use of the language. Another example would be, English is a language that draws and imports a lot of other words from other languages. And then it turns the meaning into something that is based on whatever the English context is. So often students will see a phrase that maybe even from their own language that they're familiar with, but it's not used in the same way in English. So those are some of the challenges that students have to sort of learn in order to overcome those challenges. Um, Another example would be words in English that are spelt the same, such as the word tear and tear. Tear and tear are both spelled T-E-A-R in English, and yet they mean entirely different things. The word tear in English refers to the teardrops that come down from your eyes. The word tear means you are ripping something up. So how do you know when it's being used in what context? Well, the context is the key. What are you referring to? Are you referring to somebody who's tearing up in their eyes, crying, for example? Or are you referring to somebody who's taken a piece of paper and torn it, ripped it up? So again, knowing the context is really key to understanding why we use words in a certain way. Another example is another word that is spelled or sounds the same as the word tear, but is spelled differently. This is spelled T-I-E-R. And in English, that refers to a layer or series of layers. For example, when you bake a cake, you would have 3 layers, say, of cake. Well, each of those layers would be called a tier. So it sounds the same as the other word tier, but it's spelled slightly differently, and of course, it means something different. So to understand, how we use words in the English language, you really have to know what is being referred to and when it is being referred to. These are really key issues when understanding English. Another challenge is that students find difficult in English is the fact that not all the rules apply all the time. So there are many exceptions, and those exceptions will be based on, as I said, the context of how they're being used in a sentence, but it can also be how the sentence sounds. And that's a big challenge for newcomers because, of course, how it sounds, they won't know how it sounds, how it's supposed to sound. So they won't be sure, well, should I be saying it this way or should I not be saying it that way? So these are some of the things that exposure to the English language on an ongoing basis, like, on a regular basis, can help students. Another challenge involves the idea that English is written in different forms depending on what you are writing it for. So, for example, there's a difference between writing academic language versus writing a story versus writing a letter or even talking in a general sense in a conversation. In academic language, the language is more precise. It requires focus, and it tends to exact a lot of expectations on the writer that they use the English language in a way that conveys the meaning or message or intent of the sentence clearly. So, for example, I might say in a regular conversation that the car is broken. But if you say that in an academic paper, then you have to detail exactly how the car is broken, what car you're referring to, when it was broken, and so on. In other words, conciseness is one of the keys. And of course, academic standards in English are set up in a certain way that may be different from schools and universities in other countries. And that can be challenging for students as well, because many students actually experience challenges when writing academic papers in English, and often, get into trouble over not properly citing. And these are some of the things we can address. It is definitely some of the things we would address in helping students in this program. So how do you resolve some of these solutions, these problems? Well, a number of solutions can be undertaken by students themselves. For one thing, you can begin by trying to connect the English words you are learning to context and experiences you have in your own life. And that might involve, for example, well, if I say the word sit down in English, what does that mean in your own language? And try to sort of relate it to your own language and your own context when sitting down. Just say the words when you are sitting down at home. Just say them in English. Another factor could be maintaining a regular daily effort at speaking, reading, and listening to English. These are really important in terms of helping you to develop your English language skills. Regular exposure to reading, speaking, and writing English can help improve your English language skills substantially. And in fact, one of the suggestions would be, for example, just to watch a movie in English or watch a comedy, which can help you learn idioms, for example, or look at advertisements in English to see how they use phrases and meanings. This can help you get a better grasp of the English language, both at the general sense of the language, which means being able to converse in English with friends and colleagues, but also even at the academic level, because more exposure you have to English, the more you are able to understand why we are using certain phrases. Another solution would be to look at what the words in a sentence are referring to, and that goes back to what I was saying, using the examples of tier. Tier in terms of am I referring to layers of a cake, or plateaus, for example, piled one top on another, or am I referring to the tiers of an eye, or is the word really being pronounced tear, and am I referring to ripping something up? So the context, pay attention to the context in English. It really sets how we understand what words are being used and what their meanings are. Of course, it's important fundamentally to study the rules of grammar. And although I did say that the rules of grammar are flexible in English, they are still significant enough to help you really fully grasp the language. So it is essential as you learn English to make sure you understand, the rules of English, the grammar that sets out what is a verb, what is a noun, what is an adjective, for example, how do we use prepositions, how do we use tenses, what is the tense in a sentence referring to? And even in the order of words, we can explain the order of words and why the subject object are related in that way. Um, and of course, at a simpler level, learn a few English words each day. Memorize them. Try to get an understanding of them. The more English words you pick up on a daily basis, the difference it will make to your overall understanding of the language. Another thing you can do is, if you know someone who's either wanting to learn English or already speaks English at a reasonable level, try to have a regular conversation with them, because it does make a difference. The more you are exposed to speaking English, the more likely you are to learn it, and learn it at a high level. Finally, if you are going to go to, say, an English-speaking university, or you want to get a job in Canada, the United States, the UK, Australia, in order to get a better understanding of the type of language that expectations there are at university or in those jobs, try to find an English article or find an English-speaking book, not a story, but more of an academic work. Read a newspaper in English. Read promotional material from the websites of the jobs or the government or the country you want to come to, because this will give you a better understanding of the type of English that is expected and what you will need to learn. Okay, for myself, I guess that covers it for the moment. If Shazad has anything further he'd like to add in that regards.
Yeah, thank you so much, Sebastian. And before we take participants' questions or ask them if they have any concerns, I would just like to reiterate myself that we are here to support you. If you are considering any English language exam in future, or if you are struggling with academic writing, we are here to support you. What we can offer you differently is, like, I understand both the languages. I understand, in fact, I understand various languages, including Punjabi, Urdu, and English. And along with me, we have Sebastian and other team members who can, support you uh, in that way that is necessary for you guys to learn English language, practice that learning in your routine, and then overcome all those challenges that Sebastian just mentioned. So he has talked about the challenges, in general term, though we have not focused on particularly IELTS and other exams, because every exam requires, different skills, techniques, and strategies to, ace that. So we will focus all those in different sessions once we'll have participants who want to, do different exams. So we will focus on that. But, in a nutshell, what is needed, Sebastian has already, mentioned all those basic things that you need to consider, and you need to be mindful about all those things. So yeah, this was all about our discussion. So we are happy to take your questions and concerns. So if you want to ask, you can, unmute yourself and you can ask the question. If you want to write the question in the chat box, you can write the question, and we can go from there.
Thank you, everyone.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Can I have question, sir?
Hi.
Hello.
Yes, please go ahead, Anil. You can go first, and
Okay.
then Anji, you can. Uh,
Hi, everyone. Hi, Sebastian. How are you doing?
I'm doing fine, thank you. How about yourself?
Yeah, thank you for adding us in this meeting, in this webinar. So I need to ask a question. So you were talking about the exposure. So what could be the best site or anything that we can watch daily to improve our this one listening?
Well, if you want to listen to English, I think the best way to one of the things you can do is there are Talk TEDs, for example, or TED Talks. Sorry, I forgot how they were called, where they're engaged in discussions on a regular basis, and they, of course, they're in English, and because they're kind of in a form where it's really about conversation, it allows you to hear the words, and because they're trying to explain things, they tend to say it in a much slower manner than you would, for example, if you were listening or watching a movie, because in a movie it's all about the scenes, and the scenes sometimes people speak quickly, and
Yes.
you want to be able to hear each of the words decisively. Now, the other thing you can do too, and one of the things I know that helps, is there are uh, 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 how can I put them? If you go online, for example, and you just want to listen to someone speak English, just go
Okay.
to online websites that focus on speaking the language and listen to them talk. I mean, you can also get recordings of English, and you have the headset on and just simply listen to them. The more you hear the words, particularly how they're articulated, and of course in English, part of how we express our words is not just in terms of how we say them just by saying the word, but how we stress the syllables. Like, for example, in English, how we stress part of the word will determine how important that word is in the sentence. And those are the things you pick up when you listen. And it's something you don't pick up, for example, when you read something, because of course there's no sound to the reading unless you have a
Yeah.
recording that goes with it. So those are some things I would recommend outside of, say, watching a movie or a comedy, or even listening to advertisers, because those are designed to sort of draw you into the story or what they're trying to convey. They're important in understanding how we use the language, but if you want to learn the language, particularly for academic purposes at some point, then really how we speak it clearly is also how we would write it. Because usually when I talk to my students, I say, well, actually write it like you speak. Now, of course, someone will say to me, well, I speak Urdu, for example. And I would say, well, that's actually fine. Because what you learn to do is you can write the English and see how that would actually mean, what that would mean in Urdu if you said it the same way using the words in Urdu. So part of learning how to sort of speak English is to really learn how to speak it the way you would speak your own language. You know, you should be comfortable at it. And the one thing I would recommend too, when you're in a conversation with people and you know that you don't speak the language yet as well as the other people that you were talking to, don't hesitate to speak. They all know you're learning the language. And
Yes.
you need to actually be willing to express yourself and not be worried about how anyone is actually reacting to that. And then, to be honest, what I usually tell my students is, if they actually are worried about how you're speaking, well, then they have the problem. You don't. So you should never hesitate because it's how you learn.
Yeah.
Yeah, thank you so much, Sebastian. I
Thank you.
would quickly like to add few things in there. Again, if your focus is to write a specific English language exam, all these things, what we are talking here are, for general English. It's great to watch the movies,
Yeah.
to listen to podcasts and other stuff, but try to understand the structure of that particular exam. If your purpose is to improve your language for that exam or to improve the scores for that exam, you need to understand the structure of that exam, what kind of components are there. Say, for example, if we take IELTS, like the first component in listening is you need to, complete a form. So there are different kind of questions, including the cell phone number and the names and the postal codes and that kind of questions. So you need to understand different kind of sounds and the words, and try to listen to those things. Say, for example, 30 and 13. So you need to practice in such a way, try to listen those kind of things if your focus is, especially on passing a specific exam. It's great to, and listen to all these things to improve your journal language. But if your focus is on specific exam, try to practice. And there is no alternative to practice, with a skilled person who can provide you feedback as well.
Yeah, I would add to that when you're talking about particularly higher levels of language and academic levels, for example, the language is more complex. And one of the ways to really learn it is you see a sentence and see and take, for example, the verbs and see if you can learn what words should go into that sentence in order to express the meaning of that sentence. So you have, in other words, you have to fill out certain spaces in the sentence by putting in words. This will teach you, okay, what words do I need? What tense do I need to express that? Because that's part of that learning. It's not just picking a word, it's recognizing the tense relative to the rest of the sentence. And you can only learn that by actually practicing that with actual sentences. And there are lots of, like we would provide lots of sentence examples and paragraphs where you would actually be able to practice that.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you, Sebastian. Thank you,
Yes,
sir.
Benji, you have a question?
Thank you, sir.
Hi.
I have a question about what is difference between the IELTS and OET. If someone want to choose the OET and rather than the IELTS, what is the great difference and how can we assess it? The IELTS is the better for us or the OET as a being a nurse to approach to the USA, the Canada like that? Because some people have interest in the OET like me. I think OET is best for me. I can approach already better as compared to the eyes. Always I confused about the eyes and all. When I think about the eyes, I little bit confused. But when I thought about the OIT, I think I can approach it very well. So that's why I just have a question. Can you people please clarify me what is the main difference IELTS and OET, and what is the best strategy for going to the other like the USA and the Canada for the nursing jobs?
Yeah, I think
Thank
this
you.
is an excellent question. For me, various English language exams have some benefits as well as some drawbacks. If we talk about OET, OET is actually especially designed for healthcare professionals. So the language that they are going to use in that exam is, is familiar for the healthcare professionals. So this can be one of the advantage. The disadvantage, of OET can be in terms of the fee that you need to pay for that exam, because they are charging a high amount of money nowadays compared to IELTS. So in IELTS, like, you have to pay half of the money compared to OET. So this can be one of the disadvantage. And then the scoring criterias are different. What I experienced, is like, if you can learn techniques and skills that are required to, pass the exam or to achieve the required bands, for me, IELTS is the best option. But many people are comfortable, with the OET. So I would not say they should not go with OET. They can, but one of the factor can be the money, the price that you are gonna pay. Yeah, so it's up to you. You can review the exam structures and their scoring systems, how they are going to grade you, because there is a minimal difference when it comes to IELTS reading. Say, for example, IELTS journal reading. If you want to achieve a band score of 7, you need to correct or you need to choose 30 correct option out of 40, right? So you will get a band 7. Uh, sorry, band 6 in IELTS journal. And for IELTS academic, the scoring is a little bit, relaxed. Like on 23 answers, you can get band 6. So, I mean, they are not somewhat different. They are going to assess your language equally, but it's your comfort level. You need to know what you are, comfortable with. Right, Sebastian, do you want to add anything?
I would only think that in terms of the exams, you probably have to determine how relevant each exam is to your field of study. Which one would be most appropriate for ensuring your chance at being able to make the transition to, like in this case, nursing in Canada, the United States, or and so on. So I think you have to look at that as a factor to consider in terms of choosing which one is better suited for you.
Okay, thank you, Sebastian.
Yeah,
It's a
exactly.
pleasure.
Because many states in America, Sebastian, they accept different kind of exams.
Right.
They can accept OET as well as IELTS and Pearson English exam, but there is not a very strict rule. But some countries can, provide you specific instructions, like, or institutions can give you guidelines, like, this is the exam that you need to go for.
And that's probably the best way to determine that, really, is to look at, depending on what institutions or country you are going to, find
Yeah.
out which exams that they stress as the more important of the two that they are more likely to accept.
Yeah, exactly. Anyone else? I can see Hussein Zaib is there. Thank you for joining, Hussein. Any other questions? No?
So, what is this? Sorry, can I speak?
Yeah, please go ahead.
Uh, so, as you told, it's a similar teaching strategy and the learning strategy about the OET and the IELTS. So, I just want to learn about what is the best like the IELTS strategism as compared to the OET? Because OET, as we people knows, it's a professional language. Most often we pick the professional things like the medical terms and the medical conversation in between the OETs scenarios. But in the IELTS, this is totally the different because it's have a general conversation. So if I choose the IELTS, so there is also no any scenario between the IELTS strategies between the IELTS conversation about the medical lines. It is totally about to the journal conversation.
Actually, for IELTS, there are two different types,
Yep.
IELTS General and IELTS Academic. In IELTS Academic, the language they are going to use is related to, they're going to use scientific language. So you will be much more familiar with that. But in OET, like that is particularly designed for healthcare professionals like nurses and physiotherapists and doctors. So they provide you the scenarios and the text related to healthcare. So might be you can feel that you are more familiar with that, but it's not like that is straightforward and very simple for you guys. There are the tricks that they want to there are tricks and there are challenges, and they have designed these exams to assess your abilities to understand and comprehend languages. So it's not gonna be, straightforward. So
No, and
yeah, yeah, please.
no, sorry. No, and in fact, one factor will be that they will consider and assess your language skills in terms of it being comparable to the language skills of those who already speak the language in that profession
Yeah.
in the United States or Canada. So you are going to be held to a very high standard of academic English in terms of your profession when it comes to the medical profession, because this is part of some of the challenges that many people coming over here and going to transfer their professional skills to the United States or Canada face, in the sense that the expectations and requirements are very high level. And that's the same too with the IELTS as well, or the IELTS exam, but it's differently set up and it's a more broad-based academic language. So it's a little less challenging in comparison to more specified field where the focus is healthcare. It'd be the same if you were taking an exam that focused on engineering terms and so on. The standards tend to be very high within those professional fields, and the language requirements for people coming from other countries are also expected to meet those standards.
Yeah. Any other questions?
Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. No questions? Okay. So
Great.
yeah, thank you. Thank you so much, everyone.
Yes, thank you, everyone.
Yeah, thank you for joining. And if you have any questions, any concerns, if you want more details about the exams, and yeah, sorry, Hussein, do you want to say something?
Yeah. Thank you for
Yeah,
such a
please go
wonderful
ahead.
session. My question is just for NNS, if you want to come to Canada, like through NNS for nursing, OET is required, or can we come through OET, or we have to go with IELTS?
Yeah, IELTS is better, like Canada. For Canada, IELTS, they will encourage you to go for IELTS. They have their own English language exam, which is CELPIP. So there is another exam that Pearson conducts, so you can take Pearson as well. So OET is more acceptable for United States and Australia, UK, right? But for Canada, not many institutions accept OET, right? But there are a number of institutions, and we need to, we need to explore what are their specific requirements. But generally, like in Canada, OET is not acceptable for many institutions, and OETs, many institutions don't accept OET.
Okay, thank you, Shazad. So it means for the USA, if you're going with the VR board, so OET is acceptable. So if you wanna come to Canada, so it's better to go with IELTS.
Yeah, it's better, but again, like we need to explore the specific, requirements, and we need to find the institutional guidelines and need to read that, like what they accept in terms of English language exams, what they accept, right? Even in United States, many states, they will not accept OET. They will ask you to go for IELTS or other exam. Like not all the states accept OET in United States.
That's why it's important on your behalf to contact the location you're going to, like the institution or the government that you want to apply to, and find out what exams that they accept, because you don't want to actually go into an exam and spend all that money and realize they don't accept that one. So doing your advanced homework to make sure you know what exam would be most suitable for what you're trying to do would be the first option I would make sure that you follow.
Yeah, exactly. It's really important, and I have seen many cases. Say, for example, if you are giving English language exam for immigration purpose, right? So IELTS journal is acceptable. For Canada, you need to give IELTS journal. But many students, while they are scheduling their exam, they can, schedule for IELTS academic. So they will not accept that. So you need to be mindful about that.
Okay, thank you very
Hi,
much.
I'm
Thank you very
Omni
much.
here.
Yeah, thank you, Christina.
I have a
Thank
question,
you.
please.
Gigi, please go ahead.
Yeah. Sir, actually, I heard like that for the nurses and the doctor, they have to accept only the academic one, academic IELTS. So, can you explain about this?
Yeah, as I told earlier, for IELTS academic, the purpose is like, it's different. If you are thinking to go for higher education, right? If you want to study master's or PhD, probably you need to go for IELTS academic, and many universities don't accept IELTS journal. But if your purpose is, to go for immigration, like you want to live and stay in English speaking countries, so IELTS journal is the requirement. And again, like before you take any decision, you need to go to the websites of the institutions. They have their instructions there, right? In terms of language, what kind of exams they accept. You need to read those instructions carefully before you, schedule your exams. And you guys can go back to my YouTube channel. I have a complete video on, the differences among these exams. You can watch that, and if you have any questions, you can write your question in there as well, and you can send us your questions as well.
Shazad, my last question, maybe out of the topic.
No problem.
If you wanted to go, if you wanted to do with NCLEX, whether we should do CGFNS or we should do registration with the VR board.
Yeah, this is an excellent question, not related to English language. This is entirely related to nursing exam. So I encourage you to go with the CGFNS and never bypass CGFNS. Why? Because eventually you need to go for CGFNS once you are done with the NCLEX exam and everything for visa screening. You need to go to CGFNS because other than CGFNS, no one is going to provide you visa screening certificate. For immigration purpose, CGFNS is the only relevant organization.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you.
You're welcome. Anything else? And Hussein, if you can stay in the meeting after we're done, I just need to talk a little bit about few things.
Yeah, I'm here. I'm here.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, everybody. Thank you so much again for joining.
Thank you, everyone. It was nice listening to you.
Yeah, thank you, Sebastian.
All right, you take care. I will talk to you later.
Yeah, sure. Thanks.
Oh.